You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, October 9th, the day we've had circled on our calendars for like 4 months now. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, Season 3 of Leafs Morning Take. What's going on, Rosie?
The countdown is over. That was a long one, man. And you popping in just in time for the puck drop from your European vacation and Mexican vacation and Ibiza, Australia. I don't. What Nation Network employee do you have pictures of, my man? I gotta get a hold of those.
Yeah, I'm a shitty teammate. It's called 3 weeks vacation, which I've taken part in. But many thanks to Zach Phillips for stepping in the last couple episodes. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. Was dealing with a bit of a hurricane down in Cancun. We evaded that, got back, and I'm pumped to be aboard, man. But I just can't believe it that here we are. The excitement's in the air. Hell, I wrote an article on the flight home last night. 3 reasons why I think the Maple Leafs are going to win the Cup in 2025. I'm not kidding. Go check that out over at theleafsnation.com. And we haven't even got to puck drop at the Bell Center in Montreal. This is astounding. Like you told us all in the group chat waking up today, something was going on with Joseph Woll. We have confirmation on this. Craig Berube, I guess, speaking a couple minutes ago. Berube says Stolarz will start tonight with Woll experiencing lower body tightness, Rosie. What in the hell?
It just can't stop. Why can't we be normal? You've had since April to get rid of your tightness. Like, what happened, dude? It's just mind melting, but it's not the end of the world, obviously. But like the countdown that we've been doing for like 80 days, and then Twitter's a buzz. Everyone's jacked up. We cannot wait. LFG, the passion is in everyone. Time to go. Oh, sorry. Huge issue here. Our goalie can't play. Like, it's just so Leafy, man. Whatever. Stoli is totally capable. It's just like, how? Why? Like, why and how? It's the very first day of the year and you're fucking hurt. I don't get it, man.
We're so back, man. We're so back. You know, all I could think about, so on the way to Cancun a couple weeks or last week, I watched that Amazon series, and I was humbly reminded about Game 7 Ilya Samsonov played. I still have no fucking clue how Pasternak scores that goal.
I already sweared it up today.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, guys. We're going to have a swear jar this year. That's already 2 swear words in the first 5 minutes of the show, but I think it's warranted. Nevertheless, you sort of are reminded that Joseph Woll didn't play in Game 7. And the other telling point, I think, too, Rosie, the fact that, remember all the questions in training camp? Joseph Woll played like early on, then we didn't see him till the final game. Like, how much maintenance does a young guy need? Like, he's barely played in the league, barely played games.
Yeah, he is. He's too young and too much in his prime to have to deal with that all the time. And I mean, I have been defending him, saying, look, he had a high ankle sprain last year. Those are notorious, especially for goalies, for taking forever, and you re-aggravate them and all of that jazz. But in today's day and age, with a 20-something-year-old kid, with all the advantages and resources available to you that the Toronto Maple Leafs have access to as far as medical, assistance and having all the proper treatments and scans and doctors looking at you, how the hell is that thing still bothering a 20-something-year-old kid after months and months and months and months of time to rehabilitate it? And I'm not saying it's his ankle for sure, but like, if it's not, that's even bigger of a problem. Like, why can't you stay healthy? And I'm not piling on him personally. I mean, this is the last thing that kid wants, but just from a Leafs Nation perspective, like, are you kidding me right now? Like, are you kidding me? It's the first day of the year and you're on the shelf. It just is wild, man. And again, it's not the end of the world, but just like, come on, man. Like, come on. Why can't we just have normal things? Like last year? Yeah. It was completely reminded us of last year's playoff where you run to Game 7. What do you not have Nylander for 2 or 3 games? You don't have your goaltender Joseph Woll at the end. Austin Matthews sat out last year. Am I correct? In the playoffs? Like,
yep.
How the hell do you expect to win of all the preparation? Like, whether it's the first day of the year or the first day of the playoffs, we just can't have any health. Like, why? It just doesn't make any sense. And I know that team has all the money in the world and resources. When I was there, you could just like snap your fingers and be talking to a world-renowned doctor with all the scans. Just what the hell, man? It's just so frustrating and disappointing for a fan base that deserves some bloody results and some good breaks and just can't friggin' get any of it. And it's just, it totally is the way to start the season off on the wrong foot. Hopefully my attitude's different by the After Dark show, because like what just I go back, we've been counting down for 80 days. Day one, up on the shelf, can't do it, can't play. What is going on, man? It just doesn't make sense.
So I guess the silver lining is that Berube doesn't rule out Woll starting Thursday, but what's the difference between today and tomorrow is my
Yeah.
question.
What is, if it's that big of a little hokey pokey thing, like why isn't it ready for game one if it's something that's going to be healed in 2 days? Like, what are we talking about? That doesn't make sense. Guaranteed he's not going to be ready for this game two. There's not a chance. Doesn't miss opening night and then go, oh, I feel so much better now that I had 48 hours. Like, what the hell is that? There's not a, you've had it months. Whatever. Maybe you tweaked it in camp, your body's not ready to go, and you're not used to it. You've had a summer of training and doing all that stuff, and then you get between the pipes and go for real and push off and something tweaks, whatever. It happens, but I'm sorry for all the, indications that people were like, hey, good goalie, but injury prone, and then you defend them or at least try to. And now, sorry, like that blows up in your face. It's a tough look, man.
It's very Leafy. Again, more silver lining is the fact that we could see your boy make his NHL debut as early as Thursday night in New Jersey. Dennis Hildeby. Sounds like he's going to back up, I think.
I know they were certainly hesitant to throw him in last year. There was many times where they could have tossed him in a game. I think it was that West Coast run too, through like Anaheim, San Jose, LA. They probably could have, should have used him, and they just didn't. I just don't think they wanted to give him his first game, and obviously didn't think he was ready. But he looks good in preseason. Big body, seems capable. I mean, who knows? Maybe this guy could make a name for himself this year if there's going to be these goaltender injuries. I mean, not a very good start track record for man games in net lost due to injury. But, maybe he'll get a look. And, I guess we're talking about Hildeby now.
This is remarkable stuff. Like, this is the first game of the season, and ultimately all I could think about was Matt Murray, who is also part of this organization. But everybody knew the rap on Matt Murray coming in, and Matt Murray, being a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, could not stay healthy. So that's the very latest. Joseph Woll out tonight in the season opener, and it's going to be Anthony Stolarz making his Maple Leafs debut. By the way, Stolarz, I thought, looked fantastic in the preseason. So we'll see what he can put forth here in the season opener against the Montreal Canadiens. So as you referenced, TLN After Dark is back. So is TLN Pregame. Zach Phillips, thank you very much once again for stepping in on my behalf the last week while I was in Mexico. And Jay Rosehill is going to guest on the first edition of Leafs Nation After Dark tonight. You pumped about that or what?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to be booking it back for my kids' practice. I'll have lots of time to even see the intros and whatnot. I got my spot ready. I got a couple cold ones in the fridge right here.
Nice.
I am very pumped. Sorry to start off on a negative note, but we got negative news right as the countdown ticks away. So little fired, but yeah, we'll see what kind of mood we're in. I mean, there is no reason, Stolarz or Woll aside, doesn't really matter. No reason for this team not to come out absolutely gunning, showing off for their new coach, and just blowing the doors off this team that should absolutely be beneath them. Saw a little pump up video there where Marty St. Louis going, why not us? Why not now? It's like, well, I could think of a few reasons, but the Maple Leafs better prove that tonight, that they are not in our league this year, boys. And why not make a statement opening night?
Opening day is the best day of year for any sport because every team thinks they have a chance, whether Utah, Chicago, Seattle, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I love that aspect of the sport, but I think you're so right. We're going to get into the game details coming up. I want to prompt everybody for super chats this season. It's going to be an aspect of this show moving forward. If you got something significant to say, plop it in the super chat. We'll bring it into the show here. Comment. It could be a question, whatever you'd like to bring to the table. And we have a cool thing running this year where we're going to donate to charity. I believe half of the proceeds from the super chats this season. So going to a great cause, and down the road, we're going to tell you which charity that is, but we got some great plans for that as well.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I mean, our chat's hot. A lot of interesting stuff coming out of it usually.
Yeah.
I like it when there's retort and there's back and forth and there's obviously opinions and there's a lot of the same people. This is their third year tuning into this thing and it gets pretty spicy at times. So yeah, if you want your voice voiced over this show and to be recognized and for us to answer a question or a shout out, whatever it is, fire that super chat up. And like we said, the proceeds are going to charity, and we'll firm that up here in the future. We've thrown over a lot of ideas on what charity that
Yeah.
should be, and we're gonna nail it down here within the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, and figure out where that cash is going to. But a nice little donation to some good causes will be happening this year through that, and we'll get our chat fired up a little bit more than it even normally is.
Man, it's pretty hilarious. I was back for like 3 minutes and I already got roasted in the chat. This guy's like, why does Nick always look like shit? Well, I was like, first and foremost, everybody asks about these. These are sunspots. I got to do something about them. It looks like I've been a permanent black eye. On top of that, we actually got some sun the last couple of days in Cancun. Rule of advice: don't go to Mexico in hurricane season. I was there for a destination wedding. Very unpredictable weather. It rained quite a bit. We caught some sun. Did a catamaran tour the other day. That was pretty fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
I saw that. What was I gonna say? I
You don't like my
remember
cannonball. You called it a feminine cannonball, I think.
goes first. Oh god, I had to chuckle at that. No, but it reminds me of my first camp. What the hell were we doing? Or no, I was with Toronto. I've been sunburnt in Tampa a bunch of times, but
Yeah.
I thought it was when I was younger. But I was playing for Toronto. We went to the beach or we sat at the pool or something like that. And I just got roasted. Like I was so red. It was a joke. And I got to the rink for pregame skate in the morning. And the boys are like, Rosie, look at your face, man. I was just beat red. And I was like freaking out. I'm like on the bubble of playing or not. I thought Wilson might hold it against me and bury me. So I take like baby powder from the room and I'm patting it on my face and just trying to get rid of the shiny redness. And it like worked pretty good. So I go out there for pregame skate and then I'm getting a drink and the trainers are like, Rosie, what is going on with your face? And it had like the sweat had gone and it started to turn into like a doughy film all over my face. It was a disaster, but I just got the hell off the ice and ended up playing that night. So it was all good. But yeah, I'm no stranger to getting the old sunburn when you get to a tropical destination out of the blue.
There's been a couple moments already on this show in 2 seasons where you've been absolutely red. You look like a lobster, but
Really?
the
Yeah.
sun takes you well, man. It's good to see.
Hey, it happens. No, I don't think you look like shit, man. You look like you got a new light on your face because you're
I don't
just
know
like
what's going on with this lighting. I
shiny.
came back, my setup is the same, and all of a sudden this light is just bright. We got it. We'll figure this out behind the
Weird.
scenes, but
Yeah.
it's pouring into my soul right now. It's heating me up quite a bit.
There's other things falling apart on opening day. Don't worry about it, buddy.
Yeah, Joseph All, the #1 goaltender for the Maple Leafs. You got our first super chat of the season, Vindictive Raider. Let's go. I'm with you, my friend. Patrick G.
Yeah,
Mafia for
buddy.
charity and for the buds. Good vibes, good vibes. We love you as well, Pat. At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to squareup.com/ca/en/campaign/biginrst to see why Square is big in restaurants. The season opener, Rosie, been waiting a while for this. Craig Berube's debut behind the bench. How do you think he handled training camp first and foremost?
Pretty solid. I mean, as good as you could make a training camp. Got the heat early on. At least he didn't hit the panic button. My God, that was pretty funny. Second game into the thing, into the exhibition season, and he gets asked by some donkey reporter if it's time to hit the panic button, which he almost laughed at, but then went perfect after that. And again, I mean, preseason, like, put as much stock into it as you want. It's not, no one's putting parallels together about eventual Stanley Cup champions and how their preseason went, but I mean, it's a lot better if it goes well than if it goes poorly. As much as you don't need to put a ton of stock into it, I'd rather it go well. And I mean, their power play looked good, their PK looked good, they're winning games, they had a good mixture of players. Seems like they narrowed it down to, something that definitely makes sense. And now it goes for real. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know how to call it, the attitude or the presentation or the resiliency, but just, how do they start? What's their attitude level? Are they just going wave on wave? What's their energy like? What's their commitment to, the little things, and just how well is this team going to play opening night? I would have a feeling that almost to a man, everyone wants to show Craig Berube like, hey, I'm one of the guys that does it right. I'm one of the guys you don't have to worry about. So, I mean, if everyone's on that page, I think they'll put up a performance tonight and have something to build on.
Yeah, it's a good point because my lasting reminder from last year was A, accountability, and B, inconsistency. Every night we had no clue which Maple Leafs team was going to show up. I hope this year is different. And I know behind the scenes we were talking about, hey, I'd love to see the Leafs set a tone for this entire campaign. Game one, Montreal's an inferior opponent. I know they always play Toronto well traditionally and historically the last couple years here. I want to see the Leafs put their foot down right away and sort of take on the DNA of their head coach and sort of develop like this consistency to their game where more times than not, you're going to have your stinkers throughout an 82 game slate, but more times than not, Rosie, which Maple Leafs team you're going to get. Because I didn't get that feel last year, unfortunately.
Yeah, relentless is what I was looking for, not
Yep.
resilient. Relentless. Like, there's times in the past where this team, maybe they just start flat and they're just kind of looking flat, and you look at the bench and you're like, where the hell is it? Like, where are we? And that's just not relentless. Like, they'll go up a couple goals and then it'll just start to turn into a dipsy doodle show. And you're looking around going, what are you doing, you guys? This isn't how you close in the NHL. That's an NHL team over there that's, doubling down to get back in this game. And then you decide to do that, or they get down a couple goals and it's just like, there's nothing left in the tank. Like, just not that they always do that, but they have a tendency, and they have not won anything in particular to look at. So you can pick them apart on why that is. And it just hasn't been relentless. And I want the theme of the year to be relentless, where it's just like, it's not individuals popping up showing us glimpses of XYZ, which they have enough talent where they can do that. And like Nylander or Marner can just pop off and win a game single-handedly by getting 3 points. Like, that can happen, and that's great to have, but that's not the recipe on how to get it done long term and, as at the ultimate goal. And it's not indicative of a relentless team that is just coming wave on wave with an identity. And that's just, I keep saying that, but that's what it needs to look like. If this team, with the pieces that it has, binds together and creates this identity to just be relentless, game after game, start after start, period after period, shift after shift, like, look out. Like, they won't be stopped, but they have not had that in the past. They've gotten by and they've had their 100+ point seasons because they're talented, but I need to see that team mentality create that identity that just does not quit. And I think Craig Berube is probably on the same page as that, looking to instill it.
Tim Manto writes in, tenacity and endurance needs to be the attitude of the Leafs. I could not agree more. And to your point, the devil in me sort of wants to see a letdown at some point in time, just to see the reaction from Craig Berube. We talk about accountability, and ironically enough, tomorrow night, the Leafs will be in Jersey to take on Sheldon Keefe and the New Jersey Devils coming back from overseas. I want to see the first time something doesn't go right, the reaction from the head coach, the reaction from the players. That'll be very intriguing to see as well.
Yeah, I think you'll have to see it on the bench because he's not going to show a whole lot. If I remember back to, he's a pretty level-headed guy for an intense individual, and he played the way he did. He's not, fly off the handle kind of guy. He's not super emotional. He's pretty collected, and he's pretty level. So depending on, if they go on a 8-game winning streak, he's not going to be hooting and hollering. If they go on a 5-game losing streak, he's not going to be pulling his hair out. You're not going to catch him screaming and yelling. Would the intensity factor ramp up at certain times in the locker room? Yeah, it certainly could. It's not like he doesn't have any emotion or he's a pushover by any stretch. But I just don't think he's going to show that, especially to this Toronto media, the little introduction that he's already had. I think he'll keep his cards close to his vest, but things aren't going well. You may be able to see it on the bench of his reaction and the way he's clamping down on guys. We'll see, but there's going to be highs and lows in the season, no question, and it'll be interesting to see how this new coach handles it.
A plethora of player debuts. Again, if you're just tuning in, Joseph Woll. Lower body tightness will not be playing in the season opener. It's going to be Anthony Stolarz. You played with Stoli. We had him on the show a couple months back. An absolute beauty. Big dude. Covers the net quite a bit with Florida last year. Won the cup. And I thought he was great in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, one's loss is another's reward, so frustrating as Wool probably is. I'm sure they've kind of known about that for a little while with the amount that he did play in preseason. So I'm not thinking this is like something that happened last night, but Stoley's going to get, a bounty from it, and he's going to get a game, and he's going to get thrown into the spotlight opening night in Montreal. First time pulling on that Maple Leaf sweater for real. Good for him. And yeah, like you said, he looked good in training camp and in preseason, especially that second last game against Detroit. Obviously that highlight reel save against his former teammate Tarasenko, big old glove, flashing the leather. I mean, there's no reason for him not to be feeling really good right now, feeling confident, and hopefully he brings that in with his play tonight against Montreal.
Other debuts, Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Max Pacioretty, which we'll get to, and Steven Lorentz. That was a great little story. I thought he was really effective in training camp and earned himself a position on this roster. But Tanev's a guy we've been talking about for like a year now.
Yeah, he's almost, flown under the radar for storylines throughout camp, which is a good thing. As much as I'm looking forward to watching him play, I think what you get from him, and I'm kind of almost more excited to see what his presence does to Morgan Rielly. And I just really think that Morgan Rielly has had the weight of this whole decor on his shoulders, and he's really had to kind of straddle the line between, offense and defense, and, jumping up in the play and using his skill, but also getting covered and not making mistakes and leaving his D out to dry. And I almost think that now with the addition to Tanev, it's going to free him up to say, I don't have to have the entire decor on my shoulders anymore. I can be who I am, and it'll free him up to play with some confidence, to play with some swagger. And I'm kind of excited to see how Tanev rubs off on Rielly. He's flourished under, stay at home, solid defensive, rugged defenseman before. He seems to be complemented by those types well, and he's got a really solid one beside him in Tanev. So I'm excited for that duo and how they take off, specifically looking at how it affects Morgan Rielly.
Yeah, from a viewership standpoint, there's just like a level of comfort when I see Chris Tanev on the ice. Like even in training camp, man, this guy's no business blocking shots. We're going to get to this, but the Leafs had the top PK in training camp, prefacing by saying it's training camp. Don't put too much stock into that. But Tanev just brings a different element, Rosie, this team has been lacking for years. He's an absolute gamer. I mean, the unfortunate part of his game, he's going to get hurt. If you're going to ask me right now, is he playing all 82? Hell no. He'll probably play like 55 to 60 is my guess. But this guy puts his body on the line to win, and I think that rubs off on a roster, quite frankly.
Oh, I think so. When you got those guys, some guys are just, I would rather go and fight twice in a game than block those D1 timers. Like if you're right up next to it, fine. But when you're a ways away and you don't know if that thing's rising up and hitting you in the torso, or hell, if you get one in the face or the neck, and it never seems to hit equipment when I block shots. It always got that spot above my shin pad, below my pants, on the ankle, right above the skate, like the tiniest little spot that you're not protected. I just ate them in those places. And I was just like, stop it. Like I just flamingo and get the hell out of the way. I'm like, I'll go fight somebody. I just don't make me block shots. And then there's the guys that just lay it down and eat everything and don't even flinch. And when those guys, like, especially when a guy like eats one and he's like struggling and lays down and blocks another one, the bench is just going bananas, and it's contagious, and it makes guys look and say, am I supposed to be doing that? You don't want guys to get hurt, but when they're putting their body on the line and showing balls and caring about the team enough to like put themselves in a tough situation, it's contagious, and it's great to have a guy like him on the team. I wanted him from the get-go. I wanted him at the trade deadline. I'm excited to see him in a Leafs uniform and having him rub off on the rest of the team.
It's pretty cool too. It's difficult not to build up a battle between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs, but you look back to the preseason, there was some animosity. Alberga Jay is going to be in the lineup. We assume Ryan Reeves is going to be in the lineup. As a former fighter in this league, Rosie, do you expect something? I know Cedric Paré, your guy's not in this lineup for the Maple Leafs, nowhere around this team right now, but do you expect any extracurriculars because of what happened to Patrick Laine?
I don't know if I expect them, but I know there's potential for them. I think I said yesterday, like, game day, guys would be texting him, "Are you gonna fight McGrattan tonight?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, don't bother me with that shit. I'm not sure. I haven't texted him. I don't like planning it out. I want it to be organic and I want it to be for a reason and I want it to be on my terms and all those things." So I'd never like planning it out beforehand, especially like the morning of a game day. Like, are you kidding me? But the potential is there, right? They went opening night last year and then they never saw each other again, and it was kind of more expected just because of the setup. But there's reason, again, like you say, the preseason fireworks that went off when Jack guys running at guys and doing all kinds of stuff and jumping pare, and maybe
If
Revo's
that's you,
saying,
if you're Reeves, do you counter that after? Because again, I don't know. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to hear your remarks on that, but like, I mean, that was kind of bullshit. Like, would you react to that if you're Reeves?
well, potentially, like I didn't even think it was bullshit what Jack I did. I mean, it was a bit aggressive, but when you're new guy that's kind of a star, and sometimes you don't even see it. You just see the crowd go nuts, and you see, your new star or potential star in line A like limping off, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, his knee went backwards." You're like, "My god, like this is a huge hit." The sales come out of the bench and the team, and everyone's like, "Are you kidding me?" And then you're like, you want some retribution. You're not even sure if it was intentional or if it was dirty, but you're just going to grab a guy and say, "Hey, listen, you little prick. We do not take you taking our guys out lightly." And you give him some shots. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, if Revo comes in and says, "Who do you not remember me being on this team? Do you think you just come in and start swinging at our guys in this uniform like that?" I'm not going to take to that well at all. And maybe it's first shift, he goes right at him and goes bananas. Maybe, I don't know. It's up to Revo. And it was always my thing to maybe let the game go. That's not. I've probably fought first shift fairly often, but I kind of like to see where the game's going at first, and wait to see if your team's hitting a lull and the momentum's not really going, and they're kind of ice is tilted towards your end, and you're going, "Okay, now's the time," and you go grab that guy and try to sort something out, hit the reset button, leave the momentum up for grabs again, fire up your boys. I kind of wait for that opportunity, but we'll see what Revo does, man. And there's potential for sure.
I'll put you on the spot. Money down. Do we see a fight tonight between Jacka and Reeves?
Ha! Hell, let's do it. Yeah, we see one.
I think we do for a variety of reasons. You would know better than me, obviously being the former fighter in the league, but I'm not sure Reeves watched that game and said, "You know what, I'm okay with Jack Eye doing that." Even if Pare's not even on this roster, I think there'll be a bit of a retaliation. But I do agree, organic. If it just seems to happen, it's going to happen. On top of that, if you recall, Ryan Reeves' first game as a Maple Leaf last year at the Bell Center in Montreal. Habs fans think Jack Eye wins that fight, but Reeves falls over the net. I think he wants a redo on that on the season opener. You get the boys jacked a bit.
I was surprised they didn't have a redo throughout the season.
They
I
did,
honestly, they
didn't
did.
they? Yeah, I'm pretty
Maybe
sure.
they did. I'm just not
Yeah.
remembering it. For some reason, I remember going, "How come they haven't had another go?" Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they did. Nonetheless, opening night, we'll see, man. We will see. The potential is high again, and if you had to put my feet to the coal, I would say, yeah, they're gonna have one because it's always a tighter game, even if the teams aren't at the same points in their rise to the top of the league. They seem to play each other tough. There's always reason to get up for the game, and it is in Montreal. And I mean, I think they're well coached. These guys, they got some young guys chomping at the bit. I don't think they're going to be, at the end of an 82 game season. I'm sorry, but the Maple Leafs are going to have a hell of a lot more points in the bank than Montreal Canadiens. But this is just one game, 60 minutes, and I just think on opening night with this tradition, it's not anyone's game. The Leafs are super favored, but I mean, this game could start off in a deadlock for a while and have reason to have Revo get into it.
If you're watching right now, make sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button at the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. Also, don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for all things Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of people in the chat asking right now, Rosie, did you ever have a fight in your career where you texted the other person and said, "We're going tonight"?
No, I never have. I never did. I talked to like Thornton after the fact,
Did you?
um, things like that. Rupper talked to kind of after, but never beforehand, never planning it out, never wanted to. Again, like I said, when people are asking, I say, I don't know. I'm not planning anything. I'm focusing on the game. And once that puck drops and the anthem's over is when you kind of, the jitters go away and you just turn into, crazy mode and be ready for anything. But during that day, I just try to focus on getting the body ready and feeling good. So no, I've never texted a guy and say, "Hey, do you want to go tonight?" It always felt wrong to me. I don't know why. It was not in the spirit of the game. I always felt like I did it in the moment for a specific reason, depending on how the game was going. And again, it wasn't always perfect. Sometimes you just want to get in the game and start off on the right foot. But no, I never texted a guy and said, "Hey, do you want to get going tonight?" It felt wrong to me.
Well, sorry, back in your day, it probably would have been like MSN. Send him a nudge or something.
A T9 word a guy on the flip phone. No, in
Hit him with
Toronto, I had a
ICQ.
BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry still in Toronto. Sadly enough, I was one of the last ones to kind of move into an iPhone. But yeah, it's dating myself saying that it wasn't an iPhone back in the day.
It's okay. Tim writes in, get Rupper on the show as a guest. We will. Rupper's one of my good boys in the industry. He's an absolute beauty. Mike Rupp will come on at some point in time. I might be in the minority on this, Rosie, but I'm really excited for Max Pacioretty. I like the signing. I think it's low risk, high reward. I thought he looked good in training camp. I think there's a fit on this roster. A lot of people are not crazy about the player. If there's a guy who's going to be jacked for this game tonight, I know he's had various visits to the Bell Center, the former Montreal Canadiens captain. It's Max Pacioretty. And this team has been lacking depth. They've been lacking secondary scoring for years. And I'm actually intrigued to see what Pacioretty can bring to the table. It's always a big if, considering what he's been through the last couple of years. But I'm excited about Pacioretty, and I'll probably play him on the betting front tonight as well in Montreal.
Yeah, me too. And I know for people who don't like him, it's like we don't sign him to be Pacioretty of 2013 or whatever in his prime. You like go look at every other roster, pick up their third line $900,000 player and put him up against Max Pacioretty. I'm sorry, but like, how is anyone upset or against the Pacioretty signing? He's a $900,000 third liner. I mean, if you're giving the guy 3.2 and expect him to do what he did 10 years ago, yeah, put your arms up and say he's not fast enough. He's old, too old. He's not like, I get that argument, but not for a third line $900,000 guy. Like for that, I wouldn't trade him for. I mean, maybe there's some guy some guy who's killing it, who's on that contract, a third line guy, but for what he needs to be and what he's being paid to be, I think the sky's the limit for the guy. He's got premier playmaking ability. He knows playing in a really deep market and having pressure on him, that won't fricking bother him. He's got leadership qualities, all over the place. He's been the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, what else do you want for $900,000? I don't get it. You're not asking him to be William Nylander. He doesn't cost anything, and he's a third line depth guy. Like, the sky's the limit for what he could possibly do. Maybe he gets hurt and doesn't have the production that we want this year, but there's no sign of that. He had a good preseason. He's ready to go. He's super happy to be here. He's healthy. Like, what more do you want? I'm tickled pink by the signing and totally excited to see what he can do as well. And it'll be interesting that he starts off in the Bell Center where he's got a lot of experience.
Yeah, the problem is, I think, is who he's replacing, and we'll get to that. But Steve Bradley writes in, Patch scores first, called it. I might put some money down on that. Max Pacioretty to score first in the game. I just think guys love returning to certain places, and considering the meaning of Max Pacioretty to that market, being a captain, that's elite company to be a captain of the Montreal Canadiens. I think he's going to show up at the very least. The other thing I'll add is I love the clauses in the contract. There's like a games played clause that he's got to unlock. So I think the Leafs, similar to the contracts they set up with Martin Jones last year, Matt Murray, very, very creative with the way they've done business, and I'm pro that. Tammy writes in via the super chat. Keep those super chats coming. We love you, Tammy. Leafs Nation is back. So pumped for the new season. Looking forward to Nick's takes, Rosie's rants, and Zach's After Dark show this season. And, of course, Jay Rosehill, the one and only Jay Rosehill, guesting on the first edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark tonight. And hopefully you don't have too many spicy takes. That would mean probably a loss, no?
I know. Hopefully we're in a good mood and we're just cruising, talking about how easy that was and how good everybody looked. But you got to watch to find out. So we'll see how tonight goes. And I don't know. I've had nothing but positivity, and I'm a little spiced off right now that Wolves hurt on day number 1. I just keep thinking of the countdown, 74 days to the puck drop, and now we're at today. It's now, and it's like, oh, Wolves hurt. Like, it's just unbloody believable. I'm still a little bit frazzled, but hey, I don't know. how it is what it is. We'll see how Stoli does, but yeah, after dark. I mean, maybe I'm spicy, maybe I'm not. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. But it's a big one. I love the opening night against Montreal, man. It's a great time of the year.
Bring your smelling salts. That's all I'll say. If you're going to show up to the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips, bring the smelling salts. So I talked about it earlier. Do you care about what happened at all in the preseason? I saw some funny tweet the other day. The Leafs had an 8th ranked power play and the number 1 PK in training camp in the preseason. Do you care at all, Rosie?
Yeah, I care at all.
Yeah.
It's not the end all be all. It doesn't mean, all their problems are fixed or anything like that. And it could go the other way in regular season. But I mean, if you're going to play with, the majority of your Toronto Maple Leafs in these preseason games and be coached by the same guys and have the same systems trying to be implemented and it goes really well, well then yeah, that's great. That's what you want. That's a good step. That's a good start. Of course, it's a good thing. I mean, if they were 28th and 30th, what the hell, right? You could just chalk it off and
Yeah.
slough it off as well. It's preseason. You got a bunch of American League junior guys, whatever, but they're doing really well. And no, it's not, as important as getting it done in the regular season, obviously. But I would certainly rather see them do well in the exhibition. It means something, as much as it doesn't mean everything. It certainly means something, and it's a good sign. And hopefully, it continues here in the reg.
It's all about the building blocks, right? You're building towards something substantial in the springtime. And I think that's like demonstrating consistency. And I think if you start that early on, it sets the tone for the entire season, albeit again, Joseph Wall's not playing tonight. Let's get to the lineup, the projected lineup for this game, Rosie. And we talked about Max Pacioretty. I think some people are fired up that Pacioretty's playing in favor of Bob McMahon. But I also love setting the ideology that you have to prove your roster spot regardless of who you are. But what have you made of Bob McMahon's struggles early on here?
Well, he just hasn't stood out, He just
Yeah.
hasn't like done anything to force their hand. He's just kind of been there, and yeah, I mean, again, like what I talked about Pacioretty, and he comes out to, a pretty perfect start with
Yeah.
sniping 2 goals his first game and, making a statement, and he's looked solid, and he just seems giddy to be there, like he wants to be there. He's happy to be a Leaf right now. And again, with his pedigree, I understand his age, but I mean, that doesn't have to indicate this huge, steep decline. And you scoop him up for next to nothing because he's been going through this Achilles injury the last little while, which is unfortunate. In my mind, that's behind him. He's 100% healthy. So I think there's a chance we could get the best of what's left of Max Pacioretty for next to nothing. And I'm sorry, but that just trumps Bobby McMahon at this point in time. It does. There's more potential for it to go extremely well. So he's going to start the season. And like I think I said yesterday, Bobby McMahon's going to be in a Maple Leafs jersey this year. He's going to play games. And I've been in that position before where you're going to get small bits of action and you got to prove your worth and find a way to do something that stands out, that forces their hand to say, well, this guy did everything we asked of him. We got to keep playing him, or we're going to keep going with him, or he is helping in some way. And, Bobby McMahon's going to have to do that this year. And again, there's peaks and valleys throughout the season. He's going to get his shot. He's going to get his time. He's going to get his chance. But right now, Max Pacioretty just trumps Bobby McMahon. It's just the way it is. That's the business. So he's going to have to stay patient, stay ready, put in the work, keep a good attitude, and be a wicked guy around practice in the locker room and everything. That's going to be huge for him to make sure that there is a time where he gets a chance.
Yeah, with a new coach, there comes no favoritism. I love that aspect because it really had that country club feel the last 5, 6, 7 years. And that's taking nothing away from Sheldon Keefe, an excellent, excellent coach. It was just time for a change. And I think along those lines, when you bring somebody fresh in, everybody starts from scratch, right? And
Mhm.
Bob McMahon, who stood out last year under Sheldon Keefe, Timothy Liljegren's had his moments. He's another guy, projects to be a healthy scratch, man. If you were to tell me when Liljegren signs that contract, that extension, that he wouldn't be on the opening night roster playing, I would have called you crazy. But good on Connor Timmins, another guy who's been sort of a bubble guy who needs to have a good camp. He had a good camp last year, got injured, missed the start of the year, but he's doubled that up and earned his spot here in the opener.
Yeah, and I can't help but think that when these guys are coming off long-term IR, like there's a few of them on it right now, Yarncroke and Hockenpot, to name a couple. I mean, they're $1 on the right side of the cap right now. So something's got to give. And if Lily's not cutting the mustard with his play. If he's as much of a liability as he is a help out there, he's making a good chunk of money. And if he's not in their plans and he's not playing well and they find other guys to fill the spot as well as he does, I foresee him going on waivers. No one's claiming a
No, I
scratched guy that's struggling making, is it 2 point something, 3 point something? He's making a healthy chunk of change.
think
You
it's
get
3.
Yeah, so you get him on the Marlies and boom, there you go. You open up, like, how else are you going to open up that much cap space? Like, send 3, it's not happening. So I think they're testing out other guys, seeing if they can fill that spot on the third pairing and preparing, in my mind, to get Liljegren to go through waivers and open up some cap space.
Yeah, I think people make too much of who makes a team on opening night. I hate to say it, but there's going to be some guys banged up. Hell, Joseph Hall's not playing tonight, so you just never know, right? I know they start the season Hockenpah and Yarncroke officially on IR, but I think more to come. I think other guys are going to get opportunities, but I think everything you said about McMahon applies to Timothy Liljegren. He is going to get an opportunity when you get in that lineup, make a difference. I think the biggest knock on him, you probably agree, is he's got, I mean, he's over 6 foot, but he doesn't really utilize his size. That's just not his style of play. He's more conducive to the style they played in the previous era. Like, I think it's quite clear what they've done in short work here on that blue line. They want to be big and nasty. And I just don't see a fit for Liljegren right now.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a lot of flash or anything that really stands out. Oh, Lily, yes, guy, wicked. Like, and I know defensemen a lot of the time, you don't want to notice them, and to do a great job is to not be noticed. But it seems like he's just kind of vanilla, or else he's making mistakes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not good enough. It's just not good enough. And, it's not to say he can't elevate his game and find some confidence and find a rhythm and really be moving the puck up and shutting it down and playing with confidence and getting on that point and chipping in and chipping out and chipping in offensively and whatever, the ceiling for him is. It's not that he can't find it. It's just that right now, all we're really seeing is vanilla or mistakes. And yeah, that's not good enough. And like I said, I mean, I think you could flip a coin on a few different guys right now on saying, it's up for debate on who's better suited for certain spots. But if you know and you see the writing on the wall that you got to open up some cap space here soon, maybe you start to try to find that other guy that's going to fill the role for you, so that you have an obvious, change to make with potentially Liljegren opening up that cap room for you.
Yeah, the big thing is consistency too, right? He just hasn't been able to find his game. Not to mention Nick Robertson is another guy. I'm really, coming off an impressive training camp. I want to see that translate to the regular season now, Rosie.
I know I saw something early this morning about him being injured too. So I started my day off with, oh my gosh. And then the Wool news break, and now that's kind of gone away. I'm quite sure he's in.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to, before camp and before preseason, it was like Nick Robertson, like, he signs. Are you going to do something? Are you going to
Mm-hmm.
force their hand? Like, show us what you're made of. Show us what you are. Remind us why we want you. And he did that, man. He came out hot. He was working his bag off. He was back checking and blocking shots and killing penalties and sniping. And he just looks like more of a man now. He just looks more mature. Like, he's a grown man, and he's got the confidence and maybe a little bit of swagger. And I'm sure his feeling on how camp and preseason went is super high. He pushed people out of the way to step into that role and say, here I am, I'm your guy. And he forced their hand. And that's what they ask you to do in camp. Force our hand, like, make us make a decision and make it be you. And he's done that. So, the knock on him is consistency and being able to get it done at certain times and then not others when it matters. So his next hurdle is continuing all that positive thing that I just said he's been doing in the regular season, keeping the train rolling, building, keeping that confidence, getting on the score sheet, being productive every game. And if it's not getting on the score sheet, do the other things that matter. You can't just be a ghost just because you didn't get your cookies that night. You got to do all the other things that I think Craig Berube is going to demand of every player. And I think he's up for the task.
Deserves the flowers. Got to keep things going here in the regular season. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button at the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star review of the projected lineup, Rosie, for the opener tonight. Again, if you're just tuning in, Anthony Stolarz will be your starting goalie making his Maple Leafs debut. That's because Joseph Wall
Got
lower
hurt.
body tightness. He is
He's
unavailable. Rose.
Feeling some tightness today, boys. I don't think today's my day. Just kidding. I love Wolsey, but
Oh, we love Wolsey on this podcast, but man, game 7 really hurt. I know this is game 1 of 82, but we've been counting down this season opener for 80 days on this podcast. I was
like, are you
feeling
telling
good.
me they don't get by Boston if they don't have Wolin, Matthews in, and Nylander? There's 4 games, man games lost due to injury in the bloody playoffs going into game 7. Like, are you telling me they don't win that series if they're not healthy? And all these wildly phantom injuries out of the absolute blue. It's like we're on a Twilight Zone or some kind of a gotcha jokey, candid camera show where you're like, haha, guess what? And you're like, no way, this isn't real. It was, and they get smoked, like they get beat out of the first round, over, season done again. It's still fresh, it still hurts, and I was ready to park it and put it behind us, but we can't even drop the bloody puck for game 1 without going back to that well. It's just gross.
Which reminds me, congratulations to you and Zach Phillips made episode 1, the Nylander and Pasternak episode of the new Amazon docuseries. And they caught you saying frickin', which I thought was hilarious because that's not usually the word you use on this podcast.
Did I say frickin' on that thing? Friggin' thing. I didn't even know I said that. I've seen it once. It was kind of funny because I don't know, other people are like, oh, that's you to a T. I noticed straight away. And then, I don't know, you always know how it sounds when you hear yourself. But I was like, that sounds kind of weird. And then I was like, oh, okay, that is me. But yeah, funny little clip that they of all the pods and shows and
I know.
content that they could pull off of, they pulled off of us. That's a good sign. And pretty cool show right off the bat. I haven't finished it, but
Yeah.
neat the way they do that. I love those shows.
I might have it confused with the promo we put out for season 3, but nevertheless, it would have been nice if they followed Mitch Marner around. I think they would have got some quality content from some of your rants over the last year. But the projected lineup, which I was getting to here, no, don't shake your head. You know what you're talking about, okay?
Well, I was going to say, when I heard we were live on the show, I heard that you guys are in the show. Yeah, Rosie's clip. I was like, and
that's all it was.
Zach and Jay are in the show. I was like, oh God, this is going to get aired out again. But no, it was other stuff. It was calmer, nicer, softer stuff.
Good exposure, but you're so right. Just to put a bow on the whole injury situation, we're like 6 months removed. We still have no clue on Joseph Wall, no clue on Austin Matthews, no clue on Nylander. They did an entire episode dedicated to Willie Nylander. We learned nothing about what was ailing the guy. It was barely talked about.
Well, he did confirm it's migraine and said it was affecting his peripheral vision. And because the symptoms were similar to concussion, that they kept him out. And I don't know. I tweeted it the other day. I have my concerns and questions with that, especially when he's like laying on his stomach with his boys around him and all the lights and cameras on him. He's watching TV going, let's go, like selling the goals and stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry, but in my mind, a migraine, you're laying in the dark. You can't have sound around you. You can't have lights around you. You can't look at a screen, and you're just laying there waiting for it to go away. It's like one of the most awful things in the world. That's like a migraine, especially when you're missing the playoffs for. It didn't look like that. I thought it was a bad look. I love Willie, but I thought it was a really bad look. And again, these weird injuries continue to plague the Maple Leafs when it matters the most. But I just, yeah, I wasn't. And then people on Twitter like, it's called a concussion, man. You don't mess around with the brain. I'm like, what do you mean? Like he had a headache, obviously, and then they said, oh, those are concussion-like symptoms, so they kept him out. I'm like, how is now everything's like, whatever. I'll move on. But it was kind of an ugly look and reminded me of the playoffs, which I didn't really want to go back to.
Projected roster for tonight's opener in Montreal: Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Domi, Tavares, Nylander, Pacioretty, Holmberg, Robertson, Lorentz, Kampf, and Reeves, which means McMahon's going to be a health bomb. On the back end, Riley, Tanev, Ekman, Larson, McCabe, Benoit, Timmins, which means Liljegren and Myers and Hakanpää's injured right now are going to be healthy scratches. And again, Anthony Stolarz is starting the opener.
I look at Benoit and Timmins. It's kind of shitty to see McCabe and Benoit split up. I like those guys together. I really do. They're kind of a throwback, old school meat and potatoes type of pairing that seemed to play pretty well together and stood out last year when I don't think the expectations were all that high. But yeah, you got to mix it up a little bit. I'd like to see how many minutes that third pairing eats. and if they keep them together. But again, I'm sure we'll see some back and forth early on, but I am excited to see more consistency in the lineup. As we talked about yesterday, I do not think Chief will be blending the lines the way that Sheldon Keefe did, which is in a way that I've never seen or even heard of before. So some consistency in that lineup and let the boys grow and cook and get some jam back and forth is something I'm looking forward to too.
Hey, young Sheldon is 80 wins away from going 82-0 here after a 2-0 showing against the Buffalo Sabres overseas. But nevertheless, Leafs PR, the Maple Leafs have recalled Dennis Hildeby from the Marlies on an emergency basis. So I would assume Hildeby could back up tonight in the season opener.
Are we the only team that is running into emergencies before the puck's even dropped on?
Dude, I feel bad like we're talking about this. We can't stop laughing because it's like it's Groundhog Day.
It's so leafy. It's so leafy, man. Like, I'm surprised. Like, they talked about the curse of the Cubs like forever. Like, curse was like ingrained. And how have the Leafs, like, no one uses that word curse. And it's like, isn't it time to maybe start asking if they're cursed? Like, going back to 2013 and every different way they've found to lose and all the leafy ways they've butchered postseasons. And it's just like, is there some kind of curse where like the hockey gods just won't let this team win?
The only thing I'll say as a media member or whatever we like to categorize as, there's never a dull day covering the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like imagine you're covering like San Jose or like
Wild or something.
yeah, like you're not going to get this type of drama before the season opener, like 7 hours before the season opener. In Toronto, it happens like quite frequently, at least.
There's no doubt about it. There's never a lack of interesting things happening. And I was thinking the other day, again, and I've said it in the past, like appreciate where the team's at. And I mean, I know there's no satisfaction to be had in recent memory. I get that. There's nothing that matters besides like winning the ultimate prize. I get that. The amount of letdowns they've had, I get that. But like imagine being the Calgary Flames right now and being like in a 4+ year rebuild with no light at the end of the tunnel and knowing for damn certain you're going nowhere this year. That'd be hard to cover. That'd be a tough place to be. And there's no telling where the Leafs will be down the road. But all I can say is right now, I mean, look at the people in Vegas and the outfits that are their job is to figure out how good these teams are. And my God, are they good at doing it, man? It's just unbelievable how good they are at predicting things. And they've got the Leafs right there at the top. Like, that's pretty exciting. That's a pretty fun place to be. The Leafs Nation is so bloody huge and passionate. Like, what a great place to be. It's a good time to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. I mean, up until 20 minutes ago, but no, it's appreciated. It's pretty wicked to be up there in the standings and have a chance at it all this year. And for everyone else to be in agreement that matters to say, yeah, they're damn good and they have a chance to do some damage this year. So appreciate it while it's here.
Loop writes in 500 people here and only 86 likes. Hit that like button. We couldn't agree more with you at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, that like button. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated and open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time. Check in on your phone and get your haircut when you want. And again, this is the Great Clips inbox question of the week. Really good question via the chat. What's it like to play in Montreal as a player, Rosie?
In Montreal, it's cool. Their fans, like, that building is neat that it's built for hockey. It's not built for concerts. It's not an all-purpose venue. It's built to watch the Montreal Canadiens, which you can't say about very many rinks anymore. That first bowl just goes up forever, and then the next levels are kind of up above. It's built differently. It's very red. It's very passionate. They're kind of arrogant pricks sometimes. You can hear it. Like, they're watching the game, man. They are paying attention to the game. All the little murmurs, and they'll chuckle and laugh at, like dumping it before the red line and accidentally getting an icing or bobbling the puck or little things that everyone kind of collectively chuckles. And they are just hyper focused on watching the game. It is a hockey venue, and it's the biggest venue in the league. Like, it holds, what is it, pushing 24,000? Like, that's as big as it gets in the National Hockey League. So it's fun, and you want to win there, and you want to crush them, and you want that barn to be silent. You want them to be booing their own team. And when you got a Maple Leaf jersey on, all you want to do is not leave that ice with a loss, because it's kind of like it's humiliating. And although you do get off the ice and all those hot dogs are there wrapped up in the bread and the old school, and I just slather it in mustard and bury about 3 of those. But other than that, you want to leave with a W. It's a good place to play as much as you dislike the franchise.
Hot Dog Steam A, I could not agree more. As somebody, as a media member who has been there multiple times, their spread in the press box, just Hot Dog Steam A, is just some of the best in the National League. I've tried a lot of the leagues now, and Montreal is probably top 3. And watching a game there in general is fantastic. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips, it's going to be great. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Any bets in particular you like tonight, Rosie? The opener, baby. Here we go.
I'm just smashing them at minus 1.5. I think they're going to win by 2. I think they should handle these guys. I think they have every reason in the world to be coming out guns blazing. I mean, in the past, with the same coach and the same identity and the same players, it's kind of like, yeah, let's kind of, knock the dust off and try this thing out. And I don't think it's that attitude today. It's hammer down. Let's go. Let's figure out who we are and let's play for this new guy. And like you said, there's no favorites. Everything's up for grabs with this coach. Everyone wants to get in his good graces early, I imagine. So I'm just simply going minus 1.5. Leafs win. I think that's about plus 130, 125. So you're getting some value, and I'm going to go heavy on it, man. I'm excited for the opening season. I'm going to be watching intently, ready for the post-game show after dark. And once we get off air here, I'm going to sprinkle in some of those little things too, like a Pacioretty goal, some different guys with anytime points. I think Matthews could easily get on the board and say, remember me. A couple different things I'll sprinkle, but my overall is them minus 1.5.
So I believe at the time of the news of Joseph Woll, the market for some reason reacted like Anthony Stolarz was the worst goalie in the league, which I think is ridiculous. I think there's actually more value in the Leafs now than there was even 2 hours ago when we thought Joseph Woll was going to start, because Stoley's going to be a stud. We know that. I'm going to play the Leafs in regulation. Yeah. I just think there's more value. I think the Leafs are obviously heavily favored in this game. They're the better team. But there's one specific player aside from Max Pacioretty. I'll probably play the shot prop there and an anytime goal for Pacioretty. But historically, Willie Nylander shows up. The former center, if you recall, Willie Nylander, I think, has played 4 games total. Dude, that was one thing. We've been talking an hour here, and I know I missed a week, but like, the hell was that about? Like, don't come out in camp and say, yeah, we're going to try him at center, and 2 days in, you're like, nah. Like, the second year in a row they did that, Rosie.
Wasn't there an injury that kind of indicated he had to go?
I guess it was Matthews and Tavares going down. They needed, I don't know, maybe Pontus Holmberg elevating. He makes more sense as a 3C, but it's just bizarre 2 years in a row.
They didn't try very hard to keep it going, and maybe they'll go back to it. But maybe Willie just said, I hate it. I hate it. But I don't think he did. Man. I thought he did say, I don't know. It's got to be something where it's just like, hey, I guess we got to pull the pin here. We were planning on having a little experiment and time to pull the pin. But yeah, they sure as hell didn't give it a very honest effort. I thought they would seriously give him 8, 9, 10 games at center. I mean, he's got an 8-year contract. He's going to be there a long time. Why not find out now, whether this thing's a go or not? And they did everything but that. They gave him a little tinkle sniff there and then yanked it. It's odd, and I doubt we'll even know why that ever happened.
Yeah, I've taken pisses longer than the trial run for Nylander, in all seriousness. But anyways, love Nylander tonight in the season opener, and here's why. He's collected at least a point in 7 straight season openers and 7 of 8 in his career. He scored in 4 season openers, including 1-1 in that crazy, chaotic 6-5 win against Montreal last year. So I'm going to play Nylander anytime goal. I might even sprinkle a bit on a multi-point effort for Nylander. He always shows up. Love the guy. I don't know about you. Watching that episode of the Amazon series, I, gained even more respect for Willie Nylander in terms of leadership, right? He doesn't really wear anything, but I really like what I heard from him.
Yeah, I like him. And I mean, I keep going back to the old Nylander as that one clip where he just dogs it back and then looks at the guy and allows him just to go in and take it. It was kind of the low point of Nylander in Toronto as far as I can remember. And since then, he's done the complete opposite. He's been a bulldog. He's been a workhorse. He's played with intensity. He's played, with energy. He loves playing. I think he loves being a Leaf. He loves the spotlight. He loves the pressure. He even talks about, I want to perform even higher when the pressure's on, and he tends to do that. So by all accounts, wicked player. Happy to have him on the team. And I expect big things out of him this year. I don't think he's going to be a Willie that shuts it down because he's got a contract. I think he's going to be a Willie who wants to, cement his legacy in Toronto.
Speaking of cementing, I think we've said all we could here on the season opener. Again, if you're just tuning in, Joseph Woll out, lower body tightness is what they're phrasing it. Dennis Hill to be recalled on emergency basis. And stop laughing. Anthony Stolarz is going to start the opener here, Rosie. We've done our part here. I can't wait for tonight, bud.
Until after dark, we were going to call it a show, but can't wait to see what happens, man. I don't know, it's our third opening night with the show going live. So it's clicked by, but I'm as excited as I've ever been.
A lot more optimism, I think, between us than in previous iterations of this program.
I started off pretty optimistic, and
Yeah.
you were you'd been hurt many times at the time, but yeah, you're more positive than you used to be. And there's lots of reason to be positive, man. So let's see if these boys can put it together.
I feel good about this team. Feel good about everybody in the chat. Over 500 concurrent at once in today's episode. You guys rock. We love you. At the Leafs Nation 401. Again, as Rosie referenced, make sure to check out the Leafs Nation After Dark. The season premiere with Zach Phillips directly following the game. Rosie's going to hop on. Hopefully no spicy takes for game one. That would mean a calm, cool, and collected Maple Leafs victory. Thank you to producer Vic as well. Don't forget, at the Leafs Nation 401, where you can subscribe and like here on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.